Welcome back to Nigeria 2015. It's the final lap of the elections, and we're still taking a look at how businesses are being affected. Of course, I'm Harriet Agbenyi, and on the program at this time, I'm being joined by Channel's Business News editor, Boso Mofai, who's to my immediate left. Of course, to my far left, I have the General Manager Operations, Kaide Akintame. To my immediate right, I have the Economist and Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Directives Company Limited, Mr. Bismarck Rewane, and of course, Nyota Egbe from the team earlier on. This, started the show looking at the elections and looking at how we're coming from the states, the flashpoints, and all the rest of it. Gentlemen, good morning. So good to have you on my panel at this time. Ms. Akintame, let me start with you, General Manager Operations. I know that this is a very particularly interesting time, because as I said already, we're in the final lap of the elections and so many things have actually happened. What are your thoughts? What are you getting, the feelers you're getting from folks out there in the diaspora?
Well, a lot of Nigerians in diaspora are making it very clear that they are extremely interested in what is happening in Nigeria. They are sharing it through what they're watching, because they're watching channels consistently. And the good news is Nigeria Channels is now live on Sky Channel 575, and a lot of them are watching it on Sky. One of the key reasons why they're really interested in this is I've lived in the diaspora for several years, and a lot of us, when I was there, were always yearning for some kind of business, some kind of opportunity back home. There's a yearning, there's an eagerness to be part of what is happening in the country. And because of that, they're now saying that they want to be sure that if they're sending money back home to Nigeria for any kind of business, for any kind of investment, or even to support their friends and families here, they want to be sure that the government is going to make it worth their while in terms of how that money ends up generating the kind of revenue that will make them happy.
I'm sure he's talking about more than, according to some data, we're looking at about billions of dollars, more than $21 billion in remittances that Nigerians, and I'm sure you were part of that.
Yes, when I was back there, most of my own sending back was more to support families, not really in terms of investment. But when I was living in the UK, a lot of Nigerians were sending money back home to invest in property, to invest in the stock market. Before the stock market crashed, a lot of Nigerians, especially those of us who are working in the private and public sector, as consultants, as project managers, as IT specialists, we're making good money in diaspora. And if you make that kind of money, you will have excess amount or a little extra liquidity that makes it possible for you to want to invest it. And the amount of investment that you put into any kind of business in the UK compared to the return that you will get when you send money to Nigeria is such that a lot more people thought it's better to send your money to Nigeria to get the kind of return that is way above what you can get in the United Kingdom.
Mr. Rewane, looking at the economy the way it is the soil right? Is the soil fertile enough? Yes, I know it's fertile, but how right is it for all this money is coming in from the diaspora to just drop in, we see something productive beginning to sprout out?
First and foremost, $21 billion is about almost 5% of the GDP.
That was at 2012.
That was at 2012.
And now, okay, let us project forward and say, let's say it's 30 billion. 30 billion, 500 billion is 100% of it, so you have that about 4 or 5%. But more important is the fact that it's also about almost 30% of what we earn from oil. Okay, so if you're getting $60 billion and you get $20 billion from remittances, it's significant. Some of it is coming as remittances, some of it is coming as investment, but it's all, you see, the Nigerian, what we call the national income, not just the gross domestic product, includes the earnings of Nigerians overseas, and what you deduct is also the earnings of foreigners in this country. But it is significant, and it's also the diaspora, a benchmark for international investors. Because if you don't have confidence in your own country, no other person will have confidence in the country. So the Jews in America are a benchmark for investments in Israel. The Indians in England and Europe are a benchmark for investments in India. The Nigerians in diaspora are also a benchmark for foreigners who want to invest in the Nigerian market. So it's very important that we see it. One, it's large. Two, it's growing. And also, when there's a negative development, those are the first monies that go out.
Okay, maybe later we'll look at that from a political point of view. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians in the diaspora wanted to vote in these elections, and now at the final lap, the feeling of disenfranchisement, is it still out there?
It's still there, and many of them are calling for, begging, more not just calling, they're more like begging for an opportunity to contribute. Yes, they're contributing their earnings out there, back home, with their loved ones or their small investments or big investments as they may have. So they want to be able to contribute their vote. Now, that may not happen until processes are put in place to ensure something like electronic voting. If that happens, then they can cast their votes wherever they are. They know that it will count. Now, it could be the other way. They could still do, if we insist, if the laws insist on staying, and we're still doing manual, they could go to the embassies and cast their votes manually. It's counted there, and it's reflected. The results are sent back here. But again, the question will be, how true are those votes?
Okay, now, earlier you folks were talking about the fact that we have 29 states that are going to be holding elections this weekend, and you mentioned some flash states.
Yeah,
could you just go through them again?
There are about 8 states that are considered flashpoint states, or states that should be looked out for. In particular note, Lagos is one of those states, Abia, Rivers, Benue, Kaduna, Bauchi, Ekiti, Imo. And then one of the viewers actually said in a comment, said Akwa Ibom should be one of the states that should be added to this. Now, this is from the National Human Rights Commission, this list we find here. Bauchi, Kaduna, Benue, Abia, Rivers, Imo, Lagos, and Ekiti. And incidentally, some of these states have their incumbents seeking re-election, while some others are having a fresh set of leaders are likely to come in if all things go well. So these are the states that are to be looked out for. But again, it's just for the electorate that's going out there to vote to realize one thing. It's as someone would say, the voter now has more power. One of our consultants said it here, that these elections has proven one thing. I mean, the last election has proven that the voter in Nigeria has the power to determine what happens. And it's not power in terms of I break your head, you break my head. It's power in terms of I go out there and I decide.
I think one of the things I will still, and that is very interesting, but one of the things I would like Mr. Akitem to talk to us a little bit further about, yes, the diasporas are bringing in remittances, but in terms of having a say, Nathan was talking about the power. Would the diasporas would want to also serve for cabinet members from their folk? Are they bringing in? They have the requisite experience.
I will be honest with you, that has been a very strong yearnings of all of us, every single one of us who's been in the diaspora. There is an organization called Nigerian Diaspora Organization for Europe. There is an equivalent of that in the United States. There is an equivalent of that in Asia as well. All around the world, Nigerians in diaspora have been saying, from the time of General Obasanjo, Chief Obasanjo, from that time, Nigerians in diaspora have been talking to the federal government saying that we have an opportunity here. If South Africa, as far back as 1994, South Africans in the United Kingdom are able to go to their embassy and cast their vote, why would Nigeria not be able to do it? We cannot find any good reason why the giant of Africa will not give opportunity to Nigerians in diaspora to vote. General Obasanjo said he will work on it then. Same thing you will see when the current president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, when he was in Ethiopia, he did say he's going to work on it in 2011. He said he's going to work on it, well, 2011 to 2015. And I am sure a lot of Nigerians in diaspora are saying very clearly to General Buhari that they want Nigerians all around the world to be able to vote. And it's not just the case of being able to cast your vote. Casting your vote means you are able to contribute to the national development because you choose who develops the country. Then it means you also want to be able to play a key role in what happens, and you want to be able to monitor this. I must key this in that Channels Television is now global, and you can watch and see what is happening in terms of business, investment, and development in the country. And finally, you would want to be part of any government that is in place today, which means there should be a cabinet position in the in the National Assembly. There is someone called Honorable Abike Dabiri, who is the chair of the Diaspora Committee in the House. We would love to have someone in diaspora apply to be part of the team or be in the National Assembly representing Nigerians in diaspora. We'd love to have...
The business was looking at diaspora bond that Nigeria was considered. I think it was under the current administration, the diaspora bond that will allow Nigerians to not just to vote, to be part of cabinet, but also be part of pulling this money into strategic sectors rather than just having bread and butter.
No, I think there's the votes, there's the remittances, but there's also the pool of talent. Since Nigeria has more of a management problem than a financial problem, because our resources have been increasing, but the outcomes have not been necessarily positive. So the only way to do that is to ensure that you use your best talent. If one of the best pools of talent is situated outside of Nigeria, so not only do you need their vote, you need their input into the discourse, and you need their input into the management. So, but the world is becoming global. You can almost work simultaneously, you can do a lot of things. But what I wanted to address at this point is that if those here were not interested in voting because they felt their votes will not count, so it becomes even academic to talk about people who are outside here. But for the first time with the card reader and all that, we are now beginning to see some authenticity in the voting process. You will find that it will be easier to integrate Nigerians in diaspora with Nigerians indigenous to achieve the objective. But more than anything else, in pulling the team together to deal with the Nigerian management problems, you need to source some of that talent residing in the Nigerians in diaspora.
Mr. Rewane, thank you so much for your thoughts. Gentlemen, we'll take a quick break now. And Mr. Akintomi, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Well, as I said, we'll take a quick break. And we're still looking at Nigeria 2015 as a final lap of the elections. Governorship, the state governorship, of course, and the State House of Assembly elections comes up in less than a couple of hours. And we're looking at how, the various issues that have come up with regards to markets. And that's going to be our focus. And just as Mr. Akintomi pointed out, Channels Television is now broadcast to viewers in the United Kingdom, known as Channels 24. The station can be watched on Sky Channel 577. We'll be right back.